Detective Arthur stared at the chaos unfolding at the Velvet Mirage nightclub. Neon lights cast a surreal glow over the scene as uniformed officers pushed back curious onlookers. Inside the club, the music had been silenced, replaced by hushed whispers and the occasional click of a camera. The victim, Amanda Hayes, lay motionless in the VIP lounge, her lifeless form draped across a velvet chaise. Amanda, a star dancer at the club, had captivated audiences with her grace and charm. Now, her lifeless eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, her throat marked by bruises that spoke of a violent struggle. Arthur moved carefully through the crime scene, his eyes scanning every detail. A half-empty champagne glass sat precariously on a table, lipstick smudged along its rim. Nearby, a torn photograph of Amanda with an unidentified man caught his attention. The faint aroma of a rare cologne lingered in the air, a scent Arthur couldn't quite place. He felt a twinge of unease, as though the scene held secrets meant to stay hidden. Detective Marion, Arthur's partner, approached, her face grim. "We've got nothing concrete yet," Marion said. "No witnesses, no clear motive. Just a lot of unanswered questions." Arthur nodded, his mind already spinning through possibilities. Amanda wasn't just a performer. She was a person with a life, relationships, and perhaps enemies. As Arthur questioned the club staff and patrons, a picture began to form. Amanda had been seen arguing with Victor Leone, the club's owner, earlier that evening. Victor claimed the argument was about scheduling, but Arthur doubted it. Then there was Gina, a fellow dancer known for her jealousy over Amanda's stardom. And Marcus, a shadowy figure who, rumor had it, had been Amanda's handler in an underground network. Still, nothing fit perfectly. Arthur felt as though he were grasping at shadows, the answers just out of reach. He decided to dig deeper into Amanda's life, hoping the truth would emerge from the murky depths. Days turned into nights as Arthur and Marion followed every lead. Amanda's life proved to be more complicated than anyone had imagined. Behind her glamorous facade, Amanda had been working as an informant for the police, feeding them information about the city's burgeoning drug trade. Her role had been dangerous, her connections to the criminal underworld extensive. Arthur couldn't shake the feeling that her death was tied to this double life. Victor Leone, the club owner, became a prime suspect. His finances were deeply entangled with questionable deals, and Amanda's informant work could have jeopardized his empire. But Victor had an alibi, corroborated by surveillance footage showing him on the opposite side of the club at the time of the murder. Gina, the rival dancer, also had motives, envy and ambition, but lacked the opportunity. Marcus, Amanda's alleged handler, was nowhere to be found, his existence more rumor than fact. Arthur's frustration grew. Each thread he pulled unraveled into another dead end. Meanwhile, the media's coverage of the case intensified, portraying Amanda as both a victim and an enigma. The public's fascination with the case only added pressure. Marion noticed Arthur's growing obsession. "You're taking this too personally," she said one evening as they reviewed evidence. "We'll find the killer, Arthur. But you need to step back and breathe." Arthur didn't respond. He couldn't shake the nagging sense that there was something he was missing, something crucial hidden in plain sight. The case took a shocking turn when an anonymous tip led to a key piece of evidence: Amanda's personal journal. The entries painted a vivid picture of her life, her fears, and her relationships. Most disturbingly, they described a shadowy figure she referred to as a Amanda's words suggested she had been blackmailing this person, threatening to expose their involvement in corruption. As Arthur read the entries, a chill ran down his spine. The details Amanda described seemed unnervingly familiar. Her final entries hinted at a confrontation with Abe the night she died. Arthur's unease deepened when the forensic team matched fingerprints on the champagne glass to his own. The rare cologne he had noticed at the scene was one he wore occasionally but had forgotten about. Marion confronted Arthur with the findings. "Arthur, this doesn't look good. Your prints, the cologne, Amanda's journal. It's all pointing to you. Tell me there's an explanation." Arthur was speechless. He couldn't remember being at the club that night. But fragments of memories began to surface. Amanda accusing him of betrayal, anger boiling over, and a moment of blinding rage. Had he confronted her? Could he have done something he couldn't recall? The doubt gnawed at him, shaking the foundation of everything he believed about himself. Determined to prove his innocence, Arthur launched his own investigation. He retraced his steps, interviewed witnesses, and reviewed surveillance footage. The deeper he dug, the more incriminating evidence surfaced. A camera outside the club captured him entering the VIP lounge shortly before Amanda's death. Another showed him leaving, his face pale and his movements hurried. Arthur's world began to crumble. Memories he had suppressed for years resurfaced. Years ago, during a particularly dark time in his career, he had made compromises, cut deals with unsavory figures to protect his reputation. Amanda had uncovered these secrets and used them to manipulate him. That night at the Velvet Mirage, she had pushed him too far. Though he hadn't intended to harm her, the argument had escalated. He remembered the moment she fell, the sickening sound of her body hitting the floor. As the truth emerged, Arthur faced a choice: deny everything and fight the charges, or confess and accept the consequences. The weight of his guilt became unbearable. In a dramatic courtroom confession, Arthur admitted to his role in Amanda's death. He described the events of that night, his anger and his regret. The courtroom was silent as he spoke, the gravity of his words sinking in. Marion watched from the gallery, her expression a mix of sadness and disbelief. Arthur's confession marked the end of his career and his freedom. Sentenced to life in prison, he became a cautionary tale, a detective who had spent his life seeking justice, only to destroy it with his own hands. In his prison cell, Arthur reflected on his downfall. The Velvet Mirage, now abandoned and shuttered, stood as a haunting reminder of the night his life unraveled. The case of Amanda Hayes faded from the headlines, but the story of Detective Arthur endured. It was a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the thin line between hero and villain, a reminder that even the best of intentions can lead to the darkest of ends.